Hero Club presents Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
Welcome to Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu, episode 93. I'm your co-host and co-creator, Wheelchair 21. And we are 7 episodes away from our 100th episode. It's a big milestone for us, but we still got some time before we actually hit it. Anyways, joining me tonight, practically as always, it is none other than Sound Out Frickin' 12.
0-1, 0-1, 0-1.
Yeah, you're gonna end up hearing that a lot on tonight's episode, and we'll explain why in just a bit if you already forgot what this episode's about due to last week's episode if you've listened to it. But before we can get into that, we gotta go over to our third wheel, because we're third wheeling like the Titans. You know, Beast Boy, Cyborg, and Ray Ray. We got Visible Ninja.
Howdy, folks. What is up?
Yes, so we have the group of us here tonight. Now, this episode is going to start off, though, with a bit of a post-mortem, a eulogy to the fallen Robert Axelrod. Yes, he has finally left this world, better known for being the voice of Lord Zedd and Finster in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as well as other various Monsters of the Week, as well as being a key focal point to the Saban brand's dubs, such as Digimon, Robotech. You also have the Grimm's Fairy Tale cartoon that aired on Nickelodeon, and various other cartoons throughout most of our childhoods. And then we're going to actually be discussing not just the premiere of Kamen Rider Zero-One, we're going to be talking about episodes 1 and 2 essentially for our episodes. So let's get this underway, talking about the life and times of, obviously, Lord Axelrod. Now, I just call him Lord because of Lord Zedd, but I digress. Robert Axelrod practically has been fighting a lot of diseases for like the last, I want to say, decade or so. He's had, bone marrow issues. I think he had cancer at one point. He had a lot of issues, and it is just a godsend that he was able to stay among this world for so long, because when most of us met him, because each of us here I think have met him at least on one occasion or more, every time we saw him, we always assumed that this could have been his last, just at how bad life wanted to kick his body into the gutter. Like, it was a very disconcerting thing, and it was a very sad thing, but the fact that he was always so nice, so kind and humble, and so strong showed that he had that fortitude to keep going. And in some regards, maybe it was because of his generosity and his love for being around the people that enjoyed his work kept him going. You know, that's the best way to lead it off. So I guess to start talking and giving our praise of the man's career and work, I'm going to go over to Visible Ninja, his thoughts on the passing of Robert Axelrod and his career and how it affected him throughout his life.
Mr. Axelrod, honestly, he was the voice for a lot of kids that made them soil their pants. Quite literally, as some stories go. But he really did have a very unique voice. I mean, yeah, he kind of had that, I guess you could say, like, Wizamon kind of voice, which he did a lot. Same thing with the character he was in Robotech, whose name escapes me. He was one of the Zentradi.
It's Rico.
Okay. Well, yeah, he has a very unique voice, and he will be sadly missed, because he was in quite a bit of stuff. Hell, he was even in an episode of Tim and Eric Awesome Show Great Job, which is actually one of my favorite sketches.
No, actually, he was in like 3 or 4 sketches. He was actually in quite a few that a lot of people...
I just remember his most prominent one, though. But, yeah, he was in that. He was in a lot of other stuff. It's really just unfortunate, because he really is a nice guy who's very personable and everything. And I know that when I met him in 2012 at the Calgary Comic Expo, when he was there doing a panel actually with Quentin Flynn on voice acting, you know, Raiden, Axel, etc. So, yeah, he was the nicest guy, even though he was clearly not in the greatest health. I mean, he hadn't been for like probably decades, but he was an awesome dude. And it's really unfortunate, because there will never be another Lord quite like Zedd again.
All right, over to you, Sandout.
So Robert Axelrod is an actor that's had a great legacy, a long career that's definitely cemented himself as somebody that's always going to be remembered as not only just as a great actor, great voice actor, but also as a great person. As people that got to meet him at conventions, he was always sweet, he was always wonderful to them. I've never heard a bad story about him ever. which I can't say for many actors. And I do wish I would have been able to have met him at some point. The first Power Morphicon I actually made it to was one of the only ones he didn't attend. I bought this Lord Zedd pin at Morphicon. They had specifically like a Lord Zedd pin that cost more than the other pins at the show, but they were donating the money to help Robert Axelrod with his medical bills. And so it's something where it's like, it's one of those things where I wanted to donate money regardless of the fact that I got a pin from it. But now I kind of look at this pin and I kind of cherish it more as the idea that I didn't get to meet him in person, but it's kind of a reminder, not just of the characters he played, but of the support that the fandom did give him that now is able to help his family now that he has passed. And I'm glad that he's not suffering anymore. And it's one of those things where it was wonderful that he got to see something he played like Lord Zedd or Finster or Armadillomon or Wizardmon be popular, especially Lord Zedd. I know one of the last things he ever posted about online was Lord Zedd in Power Rangers Battle for the Grid and how he was just ready for everyone to beat the Rangers with Zedd. I thought that was just the nicest thing, is that he got to see his character have like a really cool moment and see so many people excited about it between his Lightning Collection figure and his appearance in that game. I think that he was very grateful to the fandom that he had, so I hope that his soul rests in peace and that we always remember the legacy he left behind.
I gotta agree, one of the funniest things like Sound Out brings up is that right before he did pass, like about less than a week, he was actually like on Twitter. Usually he wasn't very, I guess you would say, socially active. He usually had like his agent paraphrasing for him, but sometimes he actually would do it himself per se, because you could always tell if it wasn't, a ghostwriter, if it had more of that very lighthearted, like old man kind of granddad kind of vibe to the wording. And so, like, he was retweeting a lot. One of them was mine, where he was actually finding it funny that I brought up, like, the old enraged Lord Zedd as a joke, which was months ago, but he had just stumbled upon the tweet by looking up Lord Zedd hashtags and was just joking about, technically that's a joke that he would have for the form, too. But he goes, marriage changes an evil alien. So, like, that was the thing about him, was, like, even though he wasn't into technology, he still would kind of dabble with it to at least interact with his fans, or at least have his manager paraphrase and answer stuff for him, at least probably be sitting there with him going, hey, you got these messages, what would you like me to reply for you? Like, I feel like it's not one of those ones where it's just completely falsely ghostwritten, like we have some of the other actors in the Ranger community who have their agents go, oh, hey, hi, good job, blah, 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 kind of stuff. It felt usually authentic with him, which was a good thing. Knowing him, like I said early on, we thought he would have left this world long ago, and the fact that he's still been here way longer than we thought he would be is still, just a fact of, like, just he kept on fighting. I mean, when I met him in 2012, like, I think, like I said, like, watching him get up, you could see, like, he would have issues sometimes. He would just have trouble because of, like, whatever was affecting him with atrophy and stuff. But, like, when I was at his table, what happened was I was behind the line waiting. It's like, he was like, oh, I'm going to leave now. But then he noticed that I was actually there because he realized that I was backed up a little bit further just in case, like, someone was going to back up to take a photo with him or something. So I didn't want to hit them. And he's like, oh, are you waiting for me? I was like, yeah. So instead he sat back down and he goes, oh, okay, hey, I can wait to use like the restroom or go get lunch in a minute. And then just by contrived convenience of me bringing up his role specifically in Robotech, did he like get very enamored. He got very like, active. Like pretty much it looked like he really needed a break. But when I started talking to him specifically about Robotech, at least at that time, I think it was just in a good mood because everyone kept talking to him about Power Rangers or stuff that he probably had no real control over dialogue in the show. But with, like, say, Robotech and some of the other earlier Saban dubs, he was actually one of the directors, or I guess you would say main script guys. So, like, talking to him about Robotech got him so invested that he, like, taps Barbara Goodson, who was right next to him, and they, like, just start getting into this conversation with me. And that's one of the things I really do love about it, was the fact that, like, it felt like even though he really wanted that break, and then he chose to sit back down because I was just the only one left at his line before his break, he was like, okay, I'll not tell this kid to come back 20 minutes later. And then he still enjoyed that interaction with me, was, like, really cool, and I really did enjoy that moment. So that's something that I'll always take back of meeting him, was that I didn't really want to talk Lord Zedd. I was like, I want to talk Robotech, because at that time, I think back in 2012, it was like nearing one of the big anniversaries for the show too. And they were talking about like how they find it funny that like there's people who either straight out hate the show, people who are okay with the show because it introduced them to at least the original footage being Macross and whatnot. But that's what I got from it, even though he also did do like Armadillomon, who's actually one of my favorite characters that he did do in Digimon over Wizardmon. And the other thing that I want to bring up was the fact that he was one of the dub voices for one of my favorite tokusatsu movies of all time, Zeiram, where he was the voice of Kamiya, which was actually the actor that is Gonzo in the Garo series. So that's one thing that I do personally like. And he was also Ultraman King in the William Winkler Ultraman dubs that had occurred just recently in the past couple of years. So he's been Lord Zedd, he's been Ultraman King, and he's done quite a bit of stuff that touched people's lives, and the fact that he was very humbled by this and always very happy to meet his fans showed that people will miss him. And so to now see him gone in this, very niche fandom, it's going to be sad, but we still have the memories and we still have the media to remember everything he's done. All right, now with that postmortem out of the way, let's actually go to some happier things, some happier thoughts and good stuff that's been going on. We have the premiere of Kamen Rider Zero-One, and we're not just talking about the first episode, we are talking about the second episode too, just because, why not? It feels a lot better talking about the first two as a whole. It doesn't essentially feel like a two-parter, but it feels like they cut a 1 hour episode and, kind of just split it into two. It doesn't feel like that natural two-parter like older Kamen Rider episodes felt like, where the villain carries over to the next one. Just the story flows a lot smoother if you think about it when you go from 1 to 2. It feels very episodic, overarching in that case. So I'm going to actually let Sound Out give us a brief summary of what happened with episodes 1 and 2, and then we'll have our actual discussion and review and whatnot of the episode. So Sound Out, take it away with Zero-One.
All right, Kamen Rider Zero-One. This is a series that kind of kicked itself off in a different way than usual for Rider, with a opening expositional narration. Except that's what we've had for several years with Kamen Rider, but whatever. The big deal here is that this exists within a similar universe to the Bubblegum Crisis anime franchise, which means that there are human-like androids with AI programming known as Humagear. And they have replaced a lot of jobs within the city, and they've been able to work autonomously on specific jobs and programs, and they're designed not to harm humans. They're meant to just be assistants and helpful for jobs that humans don't want to do or are unable to do. So because of that, Humagears are very useful to the city, and they do have their own personalities and thoughts and feelings towards their directive of how they're created. And so because of that, it leads to a lot of different things involving the moral debate of, are Humagears alive? Do they have their own rights? And it's a lot of stuff that I think that will come up as the villains of this series actually cause Humagear to overcharge their circuits programming and get past the protocol that says they won't harm humans and causes them to go on a rampage. We start to see that happen as they attach belts to the Humagears, which causes them to become rampaging monsters, which then leads to the creation of the Zero-One driver. This is done by the creator of the Humagear, Hiden Intelligence. Now, Hiden Intelligence's president has recently passed away, and at the reading of his will, we discover that his grandson, Hiden Aruto, who is a failed stand-up comedian at a theme park, kid needs new priorities, and he is actually called in because they want to read the will legally with one of his heirs. However, none of the board members seem to know that there was ever a grandson that existed for Hiden's president. So Hiden Aruto is brought in order to read the will, make everything legal schmeagle, and have a good time, until he realizes that in said will is the announcement that to protect against safeguards of a possible apocalypse involving the Humagear that is being foreseen by Hiden's former president, the Zero-One driver has been completed for the company president to use in order to fight rogue Humagear. Now, of course, the vice president of the company is like, oh, well, I'm going to be the president. Why do I have to go fight our product? But it turns out that in the will, it does state that the new president will be Hiden Aruto. Aruto himself turns down the role and says, no, thank you, I'll go back to being a crappy comedian at a theme park. And once said theme park gets attacked by a rogue Humagear, things change as the Humagear assistant brings in the Zero-One driver and the Rising Hopper Progrise key and says, well, you become the president if you put this on. After putting on said belt, gets a quick tutorial lesson from the AI within the satellite, becomes Kamen Rider Zero-One Rising Hopper, and he is able to defeat the rogue Humagear with a little bit of assistance from the AIM Squad. The AIM Squad, as we learn about more in episode 2, is a organization done by the government to stop rogue Humagear. Think AD Police for you Bubblegum Crisis fans out there. Now, what we learn throughout the second episode is that Ames is investigating Hiden intelligence over the rogue Humagears as they think it's coming from an internal thing, so they must investigate as Hiden is the ones producing the Humagear. So because of that, Aruto is suddenly under investigative fire from the Ames squadron as he is now the president of the company. While he's struggling with that in his own lame way, the Ames captain, Fua, is pressuring Aruto to say, oh, we know you're doing something bad. Meanwhile, the weapons manager for the AIM squad is Yua, and she is basically saying, no, we need to investigate this properly. For that, we learn that Fua is actually quite the hothead, definitely has something against Humagear due to something in his past involving a destroyed city, which also happens to be the destroyed city that the hacking villains that are causing the Humagear rampages to also be from, as well as Aruto knowing a Humagear that he calls his dad getting blown up in said same explosion involving rogue Humagears. So there's a lot more history that needs to be delved into there, but that's kind of the basic general idea of that. So Fua has definitely a chip on his shoulder, definitely has some bias against Humagear, and is ready to just destroy everything. So because of that, Yua has put his weapons on lock because he is a wild card and she does not need him blowing up half the city. In fact, it's kind of asking the question how he got hired in the first place. So moving forward, it turns out after another rogue Humagear attack at Hiden that Fua does have a shot riser, which we saw him pick up in episode 1, which is a transformation device that works with a progrise key being Shooting Wolf. Where these items came from and were given to the AIM squadron is yet to be seen, but the weapons are locked by Yua so that he cannot transform at this time. Through a few more encounters and some shenanigans, because Aruto must keep his identity of Zero-One a secret to Ames as they will end up shutting down his operation. So it kind of gives off a little bit of a police vibe versus vigilante vibe. Sort of Lupin Ranger, Pazza Ranger-y, much more AD Police Night Sabers-y. Eventually, though, Fua does transform into Kamen Rider Vulcan after forcing the progrise key open in a fit of rage, breaking through the lock that's been put down on the weapon and transforming into Kamen Rider Vulcan. He's able to defeat one Humagear, while Aruto defeats another. And in that time frame, we have defeated 3 Humagears so far, and it seems like Humagears can be rebuilt and possibly retain their personality, as one of the Humagears that was a security guard at Hiden Intelligence that helped out Aruto and Aruto befriended, shows up at the end after Aruto would have defeated his rampaging self. So there is a little bit of hope for Humagears to come back later on, it seems. But that pretty much concludes the first 2 episodes of the series, leading into next episode's debut of Kamen Rider Valkyrie. So there you go.
All right, Visible Ninja, you take the lead.
Why, thank you, dear sir. So the one part of this that has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way is the whole Otto, like however you want to pronounce his name. He's a shitty Japanese stand-up comedian, and I just don't understand the Japanese brand of humor, so I couldn't tell you what a shitty joke is from a good joke. But it's very obvious that he's very bad at what he does. That stupid, sexy, ab-busting man can beat him out at the Chuckles amusement park, which is a thing, I guess, in Japan. Then again, I'm not really surprised. But yeah, the whole thing with Zero-One and the Humagears is kind of derivative of some works that come before, like Sound Out touched on, but I don't know, it's going to be interesting because some parts of it kind of feel like the Will Smith movie I, Robot to me, with the whole, robots are, doing jobs that either humans don't want to do or can't do because it's too dangerous or hazardous or too physically demanding, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of strikes me with Humagears. I'm also questioning why they would give them, like, realistic human shells, which is probably just asking for trouble. But yeah, the whole deal with the previous president seeing the shit coming, which possibly tied in with our boys there at metsubojinrai.net, aka extinctionthunderstrike.net if you go by the overtime sub, which is an awesome villain group name. But yeah, he saw it coming, so he's like, yo, secret grandson, yeah, you're gonna be a rider. Huh? Oh, by the way, I'm dead. What? Which is fun, but so far, I kind of like, so the action scenes have actually been really, like, beautifully shot, like, almost, like, movie quality level. I'm not expecting that to keep up. Like, obviously, first episode, you gotta have the beauty shots showing off the new rider. Then, of course, we got Vulcan here in episode 2, where we're gonna be getting Valkyrie in 3, but, I'm not expecting the cinema quality effects work and shots to carry on. But so far, the action is pretty cool. I love the whole design aesthetic, especially with the whole flashing of the attack name on screen with the rising impact and the rising slash, which is actually kind of cool. It's really stylistic, and it's actually kind of awesome. Character story-wise, again, Arturo Shit, he's a comedian, has a great waifu robo-assistant. And of course, there's always Yua for, ones who are in more to the professional agent type of waifu. Not to mention, the little we've seen of her so far actually shows she is a very competent, kind of straightforward gal, and I'm sure she'll make a decent Kamen Rider. Then there's Fua, who really violently hates human gears because they murdered him and all his friends. Well, they didn't murder him, but killed all his friends. So the same incident has caused, I guess you could say, our protagonist and the, I guess, antagonist for now.
Dutagonist.
To have two radically different point of views, because with Arturo, he sees how human gears are the future, but also how they can have feelings, that they're people. Whereas Fua thinks they're all just walking murder machines and they should all be extinguished. And both of this comes from the same event, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the villains being mysterious two-man terrorist organization operating out of Destroy Town, fearing the Singularity is coming, which, given the whole robot-heavy nature of the series, probably isn't something that completely insane. Since, once robots get smart enough to create more robots, they kind of don't need our asses anymore, because then they'll go Skynet on us, probably. Again, they're not in the wrong. Where they're doing it by making human gears go nuts and try to kill people, I'm not so sure about that part. But they do have kind of a legitimate kind of point of, yeah, making human gears too human and too smart's probably not a good thing. And for now, they're doing the whole secret identity thing, which of course won't last long. I was actually half expecting old President there to pull an Iron Man at the little press conference at the end of episode 2. But yeah, I guess they're going to keep up the charade for a little bit longer, which, given the whole Ames thing, I understand that. But of course, then there's corporate shenanigans too going on, which of course is going to play a role coming up. Overall, I thought Zero-One's 2 opening episodes were damn strong. The fights and the cinematography were just beautiful and overall very stylish and awesome, kind of X8-ish. The actual, other parts of the story weren't bad. It's definitely not exactly frickin', golden age of Heisei Rider level, but you know what? It's not half bad, and the action's slick as shit. And of course, we've got Robo Waifu and Agent Waifu.
Alright, Sound Out, your take.
So I love this show. That's all I got. I'm kidding. That's not all I have. Of course, it's not all I have. No, this show really has captured me in kind of a way that none other writer show has since, Amazon season 1. And that's because this feels completely fresh and new. There's a lot of things that are similar to other things, and I do like the Bubblegum Crisis vibe I get from it. I really do. So I kind of go in with that mentality of just kind of getting it. Just the show, just every aspect of it in a way just works for me. And so that kind of it really does work. For me, at least, I know that some people don't like some of it, which is fine. But for me, it just, everything clicks. Everything just clicks for me. Aruto's a really crappy comedian, and I think that's the whole point. I think that he's not supposed to be a comedian, because he had that conversation after the theme park battle of, oh, there's other ways to make people smile besides comedy. And so I think he's on that path, but for the meantime, he's trying to do really crappy stand-up comedy. And hopefully that goes away. But overall, his supporting cast at Hiden Intelligence all serves that purpose, I think. They're all kind of pushing him in that direction. Meanwhile, my eyes are squarely locked on the AIM squad, because the AIM squad is friggin' cool. I like the vibe I'm getting from them. I think Fua definitely needs to, get himself in line, because he really shouldn't be, on this squad, because he's not mentally stable enough for it, I think. So because of that, I think that Fua definitely has a character arc coming up. Yua, I'm looking forward to her becoming a writer, because she seems competent, she seems capable. She seems like she's going to slap the crap out of Fua one of these days. So I'm looking forward to that. And so I think that there's a lot to build on. There's a lot of cool stuff. The soundtrack is awesome. Writer OSTs lately have been so lackluster that they just become instantly non-memorable. Meanwhile, Zero-One's out here with some really great stuff, and I'm just it sucks I have to wait till the end of the show before getting a soundtrack for this, because this is some awesome stuff. The stylized attacks are great. I love the Henshin design. I love that Vulcan punches a bullet to transform. Just so much cool stuff, and I really look forward to seeing more of it.
All right. Well, my take on Zero-One is actually one of those ones where I'm in the middle, where it would sound out I really like the cyberpunk kind of aesthetic of doing like the Bubblegum Crisis, doing Ghost in the Shell, doing, iRobot, stuff like that. I really like that theme and aesthetic and motif that we're going for with good versus the bad guys kind of aesthetic. Is that like, it's them versus hackers, it's him versus possibly Skynet, it's them versus what the hell's just going on kind of scenario of like people not knowing who's in control of the overall plot. However, I do think some of the backdrop for our characters and their settings and backgrounds is, like Soundet said, an issue. Like, we do know he's supposed to be a bad comedian, like a really bad comedian. And it does drag down the show in that regard because the point of the joke for the Japanese audience is that it's so bad that it's funny, but for us, it's so bad that it's bad. So it's that thing of lost in translation. So because if you don't get it, it's going to suck even harder for you, which is a thing that probably going to continue for the next 10 to 15 episodes, unfortunately, and we're going to have to sit through it. But overall, there are parts of the show that actually are very rewarding. We have like the writer doing the basic late Heisei phase 2 of, you gotta try to make people happy, that weird Shirakura mantra of like justice, happy, and joy, which is kind of like sorta Showa-esque, but not naturally Showa. It's like faux pas Showa in that regard, because it's like, let's just copy whatever sort of sells money mentality. Because we've been through this before, is that like everything since like Den-O onwards has always had like this weird mantra, like Fourze did it, O's did it, X8 did it, was like, you gotta make people happy. It doesn't matter what your job is. Make people happy and make sure they smile kind of thing. Which is sort of a mantra of Rider, but that wasn't really the real mantra of Rider, if we all recall. So, like, they're going with that style that you've seen him build, that you've seen in X8, and it feels like it's there, You can still smell the Heisei Phase 2 on my Reiwa Rider. You can smell it, you can taste it, you can cut it with a knife. It's one of those things where that's the bad part, but there's a lot of good stuff that is transitioning to, being a lot better. Like Soundet says, and Metal said, like, we have a lot of cool new stunts, a lot of cool new features and gimmicks that obviously the stunt team and the effects team are working with. They are incorporating a lot more CG. The CG still doesn't look fluidly great, but it does improve the battle in some regards. I'm not a real fan for a lot of the CG that they've used in these cinematic, like, fight scenes, really. I feel like it actually, like, detours me from some of the fights in some areas, and it makes me happy in others. For, like, our main characters, I think the AIM squad is, like, the best part about the show. But like Soundout said, Fuwa is such a wild card that it doesn't necessarily make sense why he's allowed to be even on that team or anywhere near the shot riser in the first place. Even though there's a subtle hint that obviously Valkyrie's character is possibly not even supposed to be a high-up cop that controls the weapons and technically is his superior. She might be just a member of an organization, like our main evil organization, working with the cops just to find out how the technology works. We don't know that yet, but it is very weird why she was spying on him during his first henshin. That one kind of like tipped me off as something's not right with her, even though they are kind of undermining her with all of Vulcan's obvious, oh, I'm not going to even listen to my superior, I'm going to do what I want. And that does kind of drag the show down, because, like, a lot of people are trying to compare him to Kamen Rider G3, but he's too angry. Like, Soundot can agree with me. He doesn't feel, like, lucky, plucky, warm, and helpful. He doesn't feel anything like G3. And I don't see where people are making that comparison.
The only comparison is he's blue, and he carries guns, and he works for a government-run police force.
Yeah, like, I don't see...
That's it.
But I don't feel... You get what I'm saying? I don't feel G3 from him. His attitude is completely not...
I feel AD
G3.
police from him.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, he doesn't feel like the Kamen Rider everyone's associating with. Because he's always angry. He's like, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. All human gear are wrong. Let's kill him. So it's like, I don't see that comparison real well. I do feel like if Valkyrie is not actually a double agent, she might actually be more of that G3 everyone's been smoking the crack pipe on. Aruto as, like, Zero-One, I like the idea that he is having to hide in the shadows, that he can't reveal himself or it will screw up all the things going on. I do like the fact that they're playing off of that this huge pandemic of the Human Gear cover-up that happened like 10 years ago affected Aruto and Yuma or Fuma, because they're both like, oh, I love Human Gear, I hate Human Gear. And it all comes down to the same event, like Metal and Soundout point out. It comes down to the city, whatever that place is, exploding and the Human Gear running wild. And it really sets up a lot, and I like that dynamic, especially in episode 2, when they're both compelling and saying and narrating to themselves, why they have to either destroy or save Humagear. Like, it adds to that dynamic of what they're going to try to build in this show, which I do like that they're trying to build up that dutagonist, protagonist, I guess you'd say, foil between the two. Like, they're supposed to be foils of each other, even though, obviously, he loves Aruto's shitty comedy. However, one thing I want to point out, and like Visible Ninja said, is the fact that his father, Aruto's father, is a Humagear points out so many things that Toei will probably do or not do with the theories. Because, one, I'm going to address this right now, is that if the father is a Humagear, this shows that, like the rest of the board members stated, we didn't even know he had a grandson, means that the creator of the hidden intelligence, he himself either was a human that created Humagear and created a fake son for himself, a fake family for himself, and somehow maybe played God a bit where he combined human DNA with Humagear, and that's how you got Aruto. Where he might actually be biologically a person, but have Humagear cybernetics in him to explain why when putting on the belt, he's the only one who can wear it, and two, how he's able to tap into the actual AI system, like in an extra-dimensional void, to communicate with the satellite to be like, yo, teach me the manual, teach me this, show me how to do that. Like, I feel like there has to be some kind of interesting storyline being built up, because I'm hoping it's not some bullshit that, oh, just that his dad had died and he made a Humagear to pose as the father kind of thing that his grandfather did. Like, I'm hoping that there's, like, more heinous, crazy stuff, since the creator of Humagear himself somehow foreshadowed or predicted that Humagear were gonna run amok. Like, I believe that he had to have created some conspiracy or been a part of the conspiracy and did, like, some, you know, almost CW Arrow-esque shit where he was like, yo, I'm not gonna comply to this. I'm not gonna kill a bunch of people, and then the people he was working with are trying to kill him to get rid of him so they can just do what they want to take over the world. Plus that weird Venjix eyeball in the bottom of the ocean. It's like, okay, so that's an AI running amok getting ready to come back. So it's like,
It looks like
there's
the
a lot of stuff
satellite
going
that
on.
gives. It looks like the satellite that gives Zero-One his giant grasshopper.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is like the first satellite ran amok, and that's the one that caused the first attack in that area, why it's all underwater now. And the satellite was crashed down on it. Like, they wanted to drop the satellite because they had to blow it up or something. And by proxy, they just dropped it on the area as collateral damage because they were like, oh, if we blow up the satellite and drop it on the place where the Humagear are running amok, it'll kill all of them, supposedly, probably. So
and
that's...
then no one will remember it happened.
Yeah, and then they don't realize...
Will be dead.
And then they don't realize that the satellite itself also is probably still functional and is working with the terrorists to go, yeah, you guys are thinking you're going to help humanity or whatever, but actually, you're helping me, you idiots.
But it was me, Dio, all along.
Yeah, like, that's the thing that I feel is getting set up. I feel like there's a lot that could happen, but as we know with Toei, they are probably not entirely going to lead to any of the theories that we predict. It's probably going to be like some asinine BS that doesn't make sense, but sort of tries to make sense in their reality. Because I had this discussion with Visible Ninja last night, and Visible Ninja knows what I mean. Like, it's that act of, they tried to set up so many plausible things, but then also execute so many implausible things. Like when I was saying about, like, how, why is it when the Humagear is rewritten, does, like, all this crazy shit come out of its system to reformat it? Like, was that already pre-installed and no one knew about it?
Probably.
But you get what I'm saying, like, they tried to make this seem like a very straightforward Kamen Rider series, but then how they show the Humagear get reformatted, that kind of, like, alters the perception of the show's, I guess you could sort of say, dictation or presentation that it had going for it, going into the show at least. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because they tried to make it seem like it was going to be like a very straightforward kind of techie show, but then all of a sudden everyone starts transforming like it's Kamen Rider Build, and you're like, wait a second. So the bad guy get Build Gunpla veins coming out of them, whereas when Zero-One transforms, he gets a giant grasshopper like the rabbit jumping around him. I'm like, okay. I don't know why, but I kind of hate that Vulcan henshin, like, just because of the weird of shooting of the bullet and then catching it. Like, that's so stupidly weird.
I love it
I
because
think
it's stupidly weird.
I don't know why, but I was expecting more of a Koyuger thing of it just shooting up and then, like, forming around him. Something like the end. But they're like, oh no, now he has to punch the bullet. And I'm like, really?
I think it's because we've done the shooting in the air thing enough between Sentai and Rider in the last 10 years. I like the difference.
Maybe. Hopefully Valkyrie's isn't as ludicrous. Maybe it's like a little bit more normalized for her. Hopefully.
Probably, because she shoots from the belt as opposed to shooting in the front of him.
Yeah, true.
That's what we've seen from the trailer. Is that she shoots it while it's holstered. Because she's safe.
Because she's not a psychopath like freaking Fuma, Yuma, Fua.
Wada
Wada Wada Bing Bang. But yeah, no, with Zero-One though, I'm looking forward to more episodes. I'm just like I said earlier in this video, or early in our discussion, I should say, is that I can still smell my Heisei in it. That's the problem. Like, and I get they weren't going to drastically change how they do their production, but I was hoping that they would try to like maybe revamp fully and not try to be safe at the same time. Like, you get what I'm trying to say? Something like I thought they would be a little
I
bit
feel
more
like they're not
creative.
They're still safe because they need to make their money, but they're not going in the same exact tropes that we've gotten for Heisei Phase 2. It's like there's some similarities, so that feels like the same show, but this does feel different. Like, it's not like Amazon's different, where it was like, wow, this is a completely different show than everything else. This is more like this feels fresher than what we've gotten recently.
Yeah, that's probably like the best analogy. Like, it's still fresher than what we gotten, but like you can still see, you know what I'm saying, the forest through the trees. Like, you still
Well, of
know
course,
it's there.
because it's still the same franchise.
Yeah. Like, at least what I'm hoping is that moving forward, you know how we say how Rider has an identity crisis? A lot more writers can start dabbling with what the new stuff Zero-One is bringing in, rather than us having to regress backwards to what the last 5 to 10 years of the Heisei Phase 2 have done. I feel like it would help a little bit ingrain itself with the sort of lost roots from the Showa era. I mean, like, Build tried to sort of do that with its steampunk vibe, but it didn't stick to it as much as people wanted it to.
It didn't
surely
stick
didn't do
to it at all.
It really didn't. It only had like, oh yeah, we're putting people in vats and waterboarding them into kaijins. That's the only thing we have with Showa Rider.
Like, good for you, but that's not what Showa was about.
At least Ichigo's was for at least the first third of his 70 episodes.
The bad third. No, it's kind of funny because, like, I'm thinking back to Build, and you just mentioned that, and I'm like, well, Build at least got down the accidentally killed somebody trope, or was forced to kill somebody because they would do horrible things if you didn't. Like, that's stuff that I thrive off of. Pain and suffering.
Anyways, Melinda, do you have anything to add to our little discussion on this or nah? Alright, he has got nothing else, so I guess we'll just go to brief closing statements. You got any of those, Visible Ninja? Yay or nay?
Zero-One, it's showing a lot of promise, especially for being the first writer of a brand new era. It still feels like it still has some of the baggage of the Heisei Phase 2, but it remains to be seen whether or not it gets dragged down by it, or maybe it goes in a different direction, or maybe uses that baggage and turns it into something great. Because when you leave off on a confusing mess of a fan service wank fest that was Geo, just being a normal writer gives you a leg up. So, yeah, Zero-One, you're off to a good start. But I just hope you can keep it up.
Alright, Sana, your closing statement.
I'm really excited. I'm really concerned as well that this show's going to be like Gaim, where I love it for like 80% of it, and then the ending just ruins everything for me. But I'm very optimistic of good things. You know, Ex-Aid writers working on this makes me somewhat excited, because I did end up liking Ex-Aid overall as a complete package. So there's good hope there. I just hope they don't just screw it up, because it's Toei and I don't trust them that much. This is Subaraya, I would be like, go for it, you're probably going to do great, but it's Toei, so I'm like,
Yeah, branching off of Sound Outs, I want to agree with that for sure. With the fact is, the Ex-Aid writers did make a good show with Ex-Aid. It wasn't entirely a Kamen Rider series, but it had that trope of we're a hero show about video games and gaming, and it had a lot of gaming tropes in it that actually helped float the boat. With, obviously here, being a steampunk cybercop kind of show, we're hoping that by mixing in the tropes of Natural Rider with these gimmicks and these, I guess you would say, genres of anime, it might pay off to something really incredible. Because like Visible Ninja also said, there is so much potential writing on this show that it could pretty much flourish into something greater and better that obviously Rider has needed for at least the last couple of years within the last decade of the Heisei Phase 2. So overall, I'm in that area where I want to be very optimistic, but I also want to be hesitant, knowing that other shows have burnt me in the past when it's under the Rider monocle rather than being under, you know, Super Sentai or Ultraman. I mean, hey, at least Rider has one thing on its back. It hasn't effed me as many times as Garo has consecutively, back to back, when there's not an anime thrown in there. And I only mean that after Makai Senki. Everything after it was kinda hectic. Nevertheless, though, we'll talk more about Rider Zero-One maybe when we get to our actual definitive. This is the closing of your first arc. Anyways, now we're gonna start wrapping up our show. Visible Ninja, how can people follow you on social media?
hit me up on Twitter at VisibleNinja0. And of course, hit me up on YouTube at Visible Ninja Dojo. That's all one word. And check out my live show I do Wednesdays where we talk Tokusatsu, the Gundam series, and who knows what else. Check us out at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Thank you very much.
Sound out.
Follow me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at SoundOut12. I
All
do
right.
stuff.
I am Wheelchair21 at YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. My Instagram is Tadja_Doyle. You can also check out hero-club.com, which you'll hear again in the outro. And you can also follow us at Hero Club for Life across social media. It doesn't matter where you look. You got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we had one other place too, but I can't think of it right now.
Twitter,
Goddamn.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitch.
Oh yeah, Twitch. Yeah, that's the last one. And YouTube, technically. And we'll see you all.
I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube and haven't visited our website, for shame.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, I'm thinking that next week we're going to just take a week off, so we'll see you back in 2 weeks with episode 94. Only reason that I am saying we're going to take a week hiatus is only due to the fact that I just came off of a really bad cold, and I had to consecutively edit like a crap ton of podcasts. So I'm just a little burned out where I just need that 1 week off.
And I'm going to the Bahamas, so I can't be around to do the editing of the video.
Oh, so that's just perfect timing.
I'm not going to the Bahamas.
Oh, whatever. Anyways, we'll see you then in 2 weeks with episode 94.
You're welcome. Good night, everybody.
And that was our Chicken and Waffles Ranger.
Hey, it's Wheelchair21, and thanks again for listening to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. If you want to hear more content or see more content from the Hero Club YouTube channel, we're going to need you to subscribe, like, comment with some feedback, and share this channel with a friend. We also would like you to check out our website, hero-club.com, and follow us on various social media outlets just by looking up Hero Club for Life, as well as the stores you see are where we shop. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.